Tupac Shakur was shot as he was riding in a car driven by Suge Knight one night in September 1996. Tupac had gotten into a fight with a man named Orlando Anderson at the MGM Grand during a Mike Tyson fight. The shooting of Shakur was believed to be retaliation for the fight. Keefe D later confessed that he gave Anderson, who was his nephew, the gun to shoot Tupac Shakur. He made the statement in a proffer to police, but the statement could not be used against him in court. Years later, Keefe D admitted his involvement in Tupac's murder in his book, Compton Street Legend. Many view the book as a confession. Keefe D wrote about that night, "I pulled out the Glock that Zip had given me and tossed it in the back seat. Bubble Up did the driving, Baby Lane and Freaky were riding in the back. Like two rams locking horns, Suge and I looked each other dead in the eye. The terrified expression on Suge's face read, 'Damn them N-words.'" He goes on to write, "One of my guys from the back seat grabbed the Glock and started busting back." Tupac Shakur died days later, and his murder would remain unsolved for years.
Investigation into the 1996 murder of Tupac Shakur. In an ABC News exclusive, we are seeing the view from the perspective of Las Vegas SWAT team members as they carried out a search warrant last month. ABC's Alex Stone has details.
Nearly 13 hours of body-worn camera video obtained first by ABC News. You can hear the officers calling out the man living inside, Dwayne Keith Davis, known as Keefe D, who has claimed he is one of only two surviving eyewitnesses to the murder of Tupac Shakur.
Keep walking back, take a step to your left, step to your left.
Police order him out of the home and then move in to begin searching for a list of items that could tie him to the murder. Shakur was shot multiple times while sitting in the passenger seat at a red light near the Las Vegas Strip in 1996. Suge Knight, CEO of Shakur's record label Death Row Records, was in the driver's seat. Knight is currently in prison for a 2015 fatal hit and run. He's refused to share with police any details about the shooting.
If you knew who killed Tupac, would you tell the police?
Absolutely not. I don't get paid to solve homicides.
In 2018, Davis appeared in the BET documentary series A Death Row Chronicles, saying that he was in the car with the shooter.
You said the shots came from the back. Who shot Tupac?
To keep for the code of the streets. It just came from the backseat for him.
Newly obtained body-worn camera video, officers are seen talking to Davis. Investigators have long believed the gunman is likely already dead, the victim of a separate shooting 2 years after the drive-by shooting of Shakur. The current investigation could lead to an accomplice who was in the car with the gunman that night.
And once my life is gone, it's gone. Can't nobody give it back to me.
Now, so many years later, nobody has been arrested in the case. The evidence pulled from that home seen in the body camera video will be presented to a Las Vegas grand jury to decide if any charges will be filed.
Let me walk you through a timeline of events that as we know them right now. Prior to September 7th of 1996, as we all know, Tupac Shakur was an artist who was signed with Death Row Records. And that Death Row Records and its CEO, Marion Suge Knight, were closely affiliated with the Mob Piru criminal street gangs, and that they had an ongoing feud with the Southside Compton Crips. Dwayne Davis was the leader and shot caller of the Southside Compton Crips. And both of these gangs operated out of the Southern California area of Compton. On the night of September 7th of 1996, Tupac Shakur, along with Suge Knight and members of their entourage, which include members of Mob Piru, came to Vegas to attend the Mike Tyson fight at the MGM Grand Garden Arena. Members of the Southside Compton Crips, which included Dwayne Davis, along with his nephew Orlando Anderson, were also in attendance at the same event. As both were leaving the fight, members of Death Row Records spotted Orlando Anderson near an elevator bank inside the MGM, and at that time they began to kick and punch him near that elevator bank. Little did anyone know that it is this incident right here that would ultimately lead to the retaliatory shooting and death of Tupac Shakur. Following this incident, Tupac and Suge Knight both left the MGM to make their way to a post-fight party which was to occur at a local nightclub. At the same time, word had spread amongst members of the Southside Compton Crips of what had occurred inside the MGM. And then that's when Dwayne Davis began to devise a plan to obtain a firearm and retaliate against Suge Knight and Mr. Shakur for what occurred inside the hotel against Mr. Anderson. After Davis obtained a gun, he entered into a white Cadillac along with Terrence Brown, DeAndre Smith, and Orlando Anderson. Based on our investigation, this is where we know they were seated. As they were in the white Cadillac, Mr. Davis took the gun that he had obtained and provided it to the passengers in the rear seat of the vehicle. As they were driving west on Flamingo Road near Koval, they had located the black BMW, which was driven by Suge Knight, and in the passenger seat was Tupac Shakur. And as they turned around, they pulled up near the passenger side of that vehicle and immediately began shooting at Mr. Knight and Mr. Shakur. Following that shooting, the white Cadillac fled the area southbound on Koval, and after our officers arrived on scene, Tupac was later transported to the University Medical Center, where he was treated medically and died approximately 6 days later on September 13th.
Filmmaker Mike Dorsey worked with retired LAPD detective Greg Kading on the documentary Murder Rap, which looked at Kading's investigation into the murders of Biggie Smalls and Tupac Shakur. I spoke with Dorsey about the news that Dwayne "Keefe D. Davis had been taken into custody.
Well, this has been, for me, kind of a 10-year journey since we put out our doc, Murder Rap, which was the first documentary that put out his taped confession that his crew did this. And my reaction is that this has just been a very long time coming, and it's just an exciting day to finally have this. We didn't think this was going to happen at a certain point. It just seemed like so much time had gone by. You started to wonder, is it really going to happen or not? But the wheels of justice turn slowly sometimes, and that was the case here. But they got it done.
What do you think, what kind of witnesses do you think they have? Because everybody else that was in that vehicle that night is dead.
Correct. I mean, all three of the other people that were allegedly with Keefe in the shooter's vehicle, they've all died since this happened. Some of the key witnesses, like Tupac's bodyguard, is dead. Tupac himself, of course, being the closest witness, is dead. Suge Knight, being the next closest witness, will probably never talk about it. So I don't know exactly who they've spoken to that could help them build, a case around Keefe. But I do.
In some of these interviews, Keefe D seemed very cognizant of the fact that he had to be careful about what he said. So he obviously knew that he still was at risk of possibly being prosecuted. But then he goes and writes this book.
Right. Yeah. When he did his interview with BET for Death Row Chronicles, which came out in 2018, he had an attorney with him present for that interview. And then after that, I don't know how much legal counsel he was getting. It's almost like when that came out and nothing happened to him, I wonder if maybe he got lulled into this sense of, oh, I guess they're not going to do anything. I'll just keep doing interviews and I'll be careful on my own and do what I think, I can get away with saying without going too far. But yeah, it seems clear. I mean, the fact that you bring a lawyer with you to an interview to make sure you don't say too much does tell you that he must have, at least in the back of his mind, considered that he might still be able to be prosecuted for this.
Mm-hmm.
And the proffer deal, when he did his original, statement to the police about this, 15 years ago, that only covers what he says that day in that meeting. If he went on CNN that night and said the same story, they would be able to use that interview against him. So I think he knows full well he had to be careful what he said.
So what do you expect to come next? Obviously, Keefe D had to know something might be coming since a search warrant was executed on his home.
Next, I would think that he might want to do a deal, or that they might be interested in doing a deal. I don't know anybody wants this to go to trial and have that circus in Vegas. And so I would suspect that they would try to do a deal, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm. The Associated Press is reporting that a judge ordered Keefe D held without bail. The prosecutor on the case was quoted as saying during the hearing that Keefe D was the on-site commander who ordered the death of Tupac Shakur.